Hello, hello. Okay, awesome. Is everyone still hungover? Welcome to the first panel of the day, where we have industry leaders here to discuss what you can use to build your community or reach the developers you intend to reach. I'm going to be referring to some of my notes on my phone here because I was out way too late last night. Demo day is important, but parties are also important. That's where I met my investors, but I digress. As a moderator, I've done a little bit of research on each panelist here, but to give our audience, our fellow founders and developers, some context, let's start with some quick intros. I'll start so you can forget about me later, because these are the stars of our panel here. I'm with Alpaca, not Alpaca Finance, but we've been around since 2015. You haven't heard of us because we started as a securities brokerage firm. We're FINRA regulated, and we've only ventured into crypto this year. So we're an API business. We power platforms like Robinhood because they need to settle both crypto and stock trading. And we worked on tokenized stocks for a little bit. I'll pass it on to Alan.
Hi, I'm Alan Day. I'm based in Singapore. I'm the head of DevRel for Google Cloud Web3. I'm the longest standing Googler working in crypto. I started in 2017 building some public data sets in BigQuery, which some of you may be familiar with and which you can now use. They're just sitting there updated real time for free. And that led ultimately to us booting up a product area early this year. So now there's a number of teams across Google. So I'm something of an entrepreneur inside of Google as well. I'll pass it on.
Hi, hello, everyone. Thanks for having me today. Pleasure to be sharing this panel with Alan and Balal. So thanks for showing up as well. It's very early today. My name is Aaron. So I lead the kind of BD and sales efforts at Consensys. I mainly focus on our inferior product, which some of you may know since there are more devs here. It's kind of the most widely used node service out there, helping devs connect to different blockchains, whether you're building on EVM or non-EVM. And my focus is more on the kind of NFT and gaming and Metaverse segment. It's been a couple of fun days for me, kind of talking to different startups and companies from NFT Taipei the last couple of days. And so if you're building something kind of NFT or Metaverse or gaming related, happy to speak after the panel. So I'll pass it on to Balal.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Balal. I'm from the UK, but I'm actually based out of Asia nowadays. So I'm one of the co-founders of ZKEX.com. And about a year ago, our team had this crazy, wild idea to build a decentralized Binance. So something which is multi-chain, it's order book, it's a decentralized self-custodial DEX. And the amazing thing is that we think we've actually built it, but we haven't gone live yet. So I'm here to talk about the perspective of actually building that from scratch and how we're growing it too.
All right, first question of the day. How do you define community in Web3, and what are some of the metrics you use to track growth? I know, Balal, you had your own marketing consulting agency in the past, so why don't you take this one to start?
So good morning, everyone. Thank you for that question. Very interesting question. And actually, when you come to Web3 for the very first time, I joined Web3 officially about 2 years ago, coming from Web2, and I have a tech background in growth and marketing. And I found everything is completely different because the idea of your users when in Web 2 is traditionally have like an email address and you have an identity attached to it, and then you kind of build around that and you kind of track that person. But in Web 3 there are no people. Instead of that you have wallets. So there's a lot of misunderstanding about what it is when it comes to growth, and a lot of people get it wrong. So in Web 3 basically your community is those people that actually give a damn about your success of your protocol or your platform or your dApp. So those are the people that actually believe in your mission, and they actually support you, they help you, they advocate for you as well, and they get excited when you do something right, and you get angry at you when you do something wrong. So the most important thing is that they actually care about you. That's the distinguishing thing, that community, they work together to build with you. So if you contrast that with the Web 2 idea of having users, those users are actually customers. And the Web 3 people community that you have aren't necessarily customers. They might actually benefit from your success. So they're actually personally invested in making sure that you actually build something that will work. So you kind of think about your community as an extension of your core team. They're not customers per se. It's more like extra team members that you have. So when you hear about someone saying, hey, we've got 100,000 people in our community, that's highly unlikely. That's actually probably their audience as opposed to a community. Community is actually really small. That's a really small subset of that. So there's like 3 things that come out of this. So if you want to build a product, you need that community first to help guide you build that product, because that's what you're building it. That's who you're building it for. So you have like 3 things you have to work on. One is the growth of that, and how do you grow that from zero? And we did that from zero, about a year ago. And the second thing is, how do you structure that community so that it's actually functional, and as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, it stays together cohesively. And the third thing is, how do you measure that community is actually growing in the way that you want it to? It's very quick. It's very easy to have a toxic community or a useless one full of bots and other things. So with growth, the first step is you really only have one bullet in your gun. So everyone tries to have a machine gun approach of like doing different things. Like you think like, oh, I'm gonna do some advertising, I'm gonna make my product viral, I'm gonna do some partnerships, I'm gonna make a content strategy, I'm gonna have like tokenomics model, I'm gonna do PR, again, get listed in CoinDesk. But you have one bullet in your gun actually, so you can only pick one. And that surprises a lot of people when it comes to growth, when you're early stage. So at the very beginning, you experiment a little bit, and one that fits. So for us, for ZKEX, we found that we're actually really naturally good at doing events. And so we thought that we will partner with other people and do events together. So that was our growth strategy, actually being surprisingly successful. We were really surprised. So the other strategies, for example, the paid ones the paid strategies are a really bad idea when you have no money and you're starting off. Don't do that. The viral growth strategy works if your product is naturally inclined to share with other people. So if your thing is like, more social, that will work. Ours isn't really, because we're a trading platform basically. So most people are kind of private when it comes to trading. Content is great if you have something unique, but again, trading, like what content can we make that's truly unique? There's already millions of articles out there about trading, so that doesn't work out for us. Partnerships does. We think we've got a USP there. PR is something that we're going to experiment with in the future as well. So we haven't really done anything so far. The really, really big one is tokenomics. So this is where you incentivize your community to actually, with money, to actually take part in your protocol and actually use your protocol on a regular basis. And there's a good way of doing it and there's a bad way. So the bad way is when you do a massive airdrop, and I hate it when people do this. They kind of have this massive opportunity to incentivize their community, and they just throw away the money at them. And those users take the money and they never come back. So it's a really bad idea. You've probably seen lots of examples, even recently, of protocols doing that. And the other one is having a Ponzi scheme where people are having unrealistic yields, and then you're encouraging predatory behavior. So those people which are coming, they're not loyal community members. Remember, community members are actually people who care about you. That's the thing that you have to kind of measure. So the good way of doing tokenomics is essentially when you drip feed loyal members and loyal usage, and also if you have this newer concept like real yield, that's an interesting one as well. So how you design those incentives are really important. So I have more points as well, but maybe I'll go back to the questionnaire as well.
Yeah, very insightful. Now, Aaron, community might not be your focus at the moment, but you did investor relations in the past, so take this question however you want it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that was a very long, good, detailed answer from Balal. I think at Consensys, we kind of define community, kind of based on 2 categories. One is more of the kind of retail consumer kind of community, and the other is the dev community. So I guess like from the kind of retail, consumer community, we kind of define it as the kind of the end users who are using the products built by developers, right? So from our perspective, that's one of our most popular products, MetaMask, which is like the most widely used non-custodial crypto wallet out there. I think we have over 20 million MAUs on MetaMask today. I think 2 years ago it was like single-digit million. I think we grew that quite exponentially thanks to DeFi and NFTs as well during the last couple of years. So I think we've built a really kind of strong community on top of MetaMask. Obviously that's why when dApps and projects are being built today, they choose to integrate with MetaMask as a kind of go-to wallet, because if you integrate with MetaMask, you instantly kind of have access to the 20 million plus MAUs that are using MetaMask. It's kind of like free marketing and free PR for your project basically. And I guess kind of outside of our product as well, for the retail and consumer side, obviously, for NFT projects, community can mean, the people who have bought your project. So, could be your token holder. We measure that by, the number of token holders, or like the number of people on Twitter which are following your project, or the number of people on Discord channels. That's kind of how we measure the metrics of how popular, an NFT project is. And I think, when these numbers are really good or they're really high, it obviously means that, the project has kind of garnered and attracted really good interest among the communities. And so that's kind of on the retail and consumer side. And on the dev side, I think we kind of measure that metric by kind of looking at how many developers are actually building or using our dev product. So from our company's perspective, obviously we have Infura, which is kind of the most popular node service out there, an RPC provider. I think we have over 400,000 developers building on Infura today. It's a battle-tested blockchain infrastructure. It's survived, kind of the CryptoKitty days, DeFi boom, NFT boom. So basically, it's kind of the go-to node service for a lot of devs today. And we're looking to kind of build on that to onboard more users onto Infura. So there are more synergies between different devs, kind of building on different blockchains as well. So I guess from Consensys, we really have built kind of two very large and successful communities. One is a retail consumer community on MetaMask, and the other is a dev community on Infura. So.
All right.
Could I add to that for a second, actually?
For sure.
So there were some really big numbers quoted just then, like hundreds of thousands of devs. But actually what's really important is when you're actually building a community is to have a hierarchy. So that hundreds of thousands of people, they clearly don't know each other, right? You essentially have think of circles, concentric circles. So you have the lower end of people, like the hundreds of thousands of people, they don't know each other. That's not really your community. What you have is an upper tier, which is gated. So those devs, when they contribute towards MetaMask in some way, they kind of boost it up to another high level. And then out of those people, the ones who are really active, they get boosted up to another level. And it's a smaller and smaller circle. And the ones you care about the most are the ones which are most active. Those are the ones that are actually the core of a community. That's how you build outwards from the middle out.
I can add something here as well, perspective from Google. This is really interesting hearing, Balal, how you're booting this up from the ground up. By the time I joined Google, we were already running at steady state with billions of users across a number of products. But we do something very similar to what you're talking about. So if you were to go and look online at a resource, you just go to developers.google. This is our developer ecosystem, essentially. And it covers all of our products. It'll be from cloud to Chromebooks to Android, and really everything that Google makes that people can develop on top of. And this developer community is largely self-organized. So I guess probably where the seeds of it started is through commercial interest, where we have partners that could be either a Google Cloud or any kind of Google partner, or a boutique consulting firm that provides services. And then typically they're wanting to build their communities and source customers. And they want to get together to share best practices with people who are also building on top of the same Google products. And Google engages with them by creating something called Google Developer Groups. So we have these groups, and these are supported where we give something like a little bit of access to product managers or Google staff, or maybe some Google resources like being able to use an office and granting some refreshments. But really, it's community organized. And typically, the Google Developer Groups, what they have is somebody who's more about organizing the community. So it tends to be a more socially oriented person who wants to set a program, scheduling speakers. And this could be virtually or in a physical event. And then typically, they're typically wanting fresh content coming in to keep their community engaged. And so there's another type of role called a Google Developer Expert. And this is a person who is, again, typically from one of these consulting firms or companies that's looking to provide services in the Google ecosystem. And then they are able to share technical material with the community, and that gets the whole thing booted up. And then when new products launch, typically what's happening around those Google products is we're sourcing people from these existing communities to boot up new communities. So it just somewhat happens automatically. So in the context of Web3, what's happening now is, as I mentioned earlier, I'm from a data science background, and there's a bunch of data analytics people who are entering into Web3 from the kind of on-chain analytics angle. You heard from Nansen yesterday. For those of you who were here, one of their technical co-founders actually came through the Google Developer Experts program that I was just mentioning to you. What was the other one I was going to say? I'll just pause there. I think so. Anyway, thank you for raising this. I've seen all of this, and it's totally true.
Cool. We went into a lot of details there, but I think we're curious about your origin story. How'd you guys get into Web3, and what you think is the most important when it comes to building developer community and relations? This panel has experience in genomics, founding a digital marketing agency, and Aaron working in investment banking. So how has your prior experience helped you succeed in your current role? Let's go with Aaron.
Oh, yeah, sure. Before kind of jumping into Web3 and crypto and blockchain, so I was in TradFi in investment banking for like 8-9 years. So I started developing an interest for Web3, I think around 2017 to 2018. I was starting to take up my kind of office hours, kind of reading random white papers, kind of just digging into the rabbit hole a little bit for a few years. And people thought I was crazy. I was in a very stable job. I actually just got married as well, back in 2017 to 2018. So, making a career switch wasn't that easy for me. But obviously, I was very bullish on the technology. Was sticking to my guns, and actually just decided to quit my job and go into Web3. I think back then, 2018, I actually, tried to jump into Web3 by attending, a blockchain bootcamp as well. So I was trying to get into kind of the dev rails. And, I had no experience in coding at all. Like, I knew nothing about coding. I had to learn everything from scratch. So I went to New York in 2018, actually graduated from the Consensys developer bootcamp. That's how I met the people that I know today from Consensys. And I was actually certified, Solidity, smart contract developer after like 9 months. But yeah, don't ask me how to code today because I totally forgot how to code today. But anyways, that was a crazy time. I would definitely kind of recommend people, kind of digging deeper into the technology if you're interested in Web3. That's kind of how I jumped into crypto myself. Kind of what's important in building, a good community is, I think, from kind of our company's perspective, is to have really good product fit, for your product. So I think, just going back to kind of MetaMask and Infura, I believe, kind of MetaMask has really kind of, built really good product market fit in the market. So for kind of, newbies going into the space, obviously, we could do a lot better with how we onboard people onto crypto. But I think MetaMask has done a great job into making it easier for people to interact with Web3, interact with different dApps in the space, whether you're buying an NFT on OpenSea or kind of deploying your funds on different DeFi platforms. Most of the time, you're kind of going to the go-to wallet, which is MetaMask. So I think, having kind of a good, solid, product market fit is important to building a good community on top of that product. The same goes for Infura. Obviously, it's battle tested. That's why a lot of devs choose to use it today to build their dApps. I think it has really good product market fit as well because for kind of developers building on Web3, a lot of the times they don't want to do the boring stuff, such as running their own infrastructure, running their own nodes. So most of the time they leave all that boring stuff to us, and we'll kind of do the heavy lifting for them. Basically, we give them like a line of code so they can connect to different blockchains through APIs. They can extract data from blockchain very easily. They can read and write data on the blockchain very easily through Infura. For me, I think kind of having good product market fit and building a good product is important in building great communities on top of that product. So.
Running out of time really quickly. Balal?
Yeah, so about 4 years ago, I was in a nightclub, and I met my co-founder there. And everyone else was having a great time, and me and him were on the side discussing Ethereum and Bitcoin trading. And I actually got rug pulled about 2 or 3 years ago, and so did he. So actually, the idea of the genesis of ZKEX.com came from the pain that we suffered, and we're so pissed off with how crypto is and where it's heading that we decided to do something completely different. So our synergy, we kind of matched up because we're essentially problem solvers, and we had like personal pain. So a lot of the kind of like the ideas of ZKEX is like, we want to make something which no one can get hacked ever, even by us. Even we can't rug pull that project as well. So the principles of how we got into Web3 is quite pure, I would say. So I would say if you're going to get into Web3 and start something, you should start with a personal pain point and test to see if that pain is shared by the mass market. And I would really argue that security is one of the core issues of Web3 right now. People losing money in different ways. It's unacceptable, especially when money is involved. So yeah, that's how we got into Web3. Basically trying to solve a problem, and it matched up with someone else that was also trying to solve a problem as well.
Yeah, you're not a crypto vet if you haven't been rugged. Alan?
Yeah, I started building in 2017. I'd been interested in crypto before this and had been buying some, but yeah, I really started developing in 2017 when I saw the interest coming around ICOs. And I wanted to be able to measure what that was and be able to help users to understand what was going on. I had recently joined Google at that point as a data and analytics developer advocate, and I figured I could just download some crypto node software and query it and get the data into a data science notebook and write a blog post. It turned out to be quite a bit more difficult than that, and I had to essentially pull the data off of the node into a data warehouse to be able to use it. And that was not a straightforward process. It took several months, much longer than I was anticipating. And I found that we had a program called the Public Datasets Program in Google Cloud, which is something that we basically make utility datasets available for free for our customers, so it lowers the barrier to innovation and makes it just easier to work on Google Cloud. And so what I did is I indexed the Bitcoin data. And so I made Bitcoin available in this Public Datasets program, gave it away, and then all of the source code so that they could see how the data set got loaded in. I put that all into my GitHub repo, and this was very well received by the community. People started jumping on top of it and making code contributions, and then building better analyses than I could have built. I mean, I did write a blog post and did some basic analysis, but a lot of machine learning engineers and data scientists started showing up and wanting to do more stuff. And I recognized that I needed to basically focus on becoming a data engineer to supply data to these better data scientists than I was. And that was how I first got into crypto. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a friend similar to Aaron, worked as a VP at Goldman for 8 years and moved on to working at the Graph. Yeah, given the amount of facial hair that we have on the panel or we had to shave off, it's unlikely that we had our career start in crypto. So pretty interesting to hear their stories. I think in the interest of time, we're gonna combine our next two questions and just go into like sort of your day-to-day and how you keep your community or your leads and clients engaged, and what kind of tools you use to kind of achieve your success metrics. Let's go with Balal.
Yeah, sure. So in Web 2, there's like 10,000 products out there to help manage metrics, growth, start your community. In Web 3, because of the different paradigm of how users are considered, there's only about 100 or 200 products out there. So the products we're using is like a kind of like we're using like an on-chain CRM to kind of get an idea of actually who's out there, and we're also using on-chain analytics and on-chain attribution to figure out what the user behavior is of our users on-chain and where they're coming from possibly as well. So I can actually share, maybe afterwards, I'll actually try and share some, like this map I found on Twitter. Or maybe you can find it yourself. It's called on Safari Club. If you just go to Twitter and go type in Safari Club, they actually made this map of all the different tools and products you can use for Web3 to track things like CRM, incentives, discovery, like events, messaging, and so all these other things which you would want to do in the Web3 world, which can't be done at the moment. So some of the tools and products out there are really sophisticated, but we ourselves are using just a few. Like we're using like Crew 3, which is this incentivization kind of membership program. We're using Galaxy and Port 3 as well for things like on-chain attribution and campaigns. So like there's a ton of products out there, which is actually really complicated, but I would like to just pick like 3 or 4 to help manage your community at the beginning and add more and more and more to your stack as you get bigger and bigger.
All right, Aaron, I know you're, again, not on the community side of things, so in terms of like strategic sales, your day-to-day.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm not really on the community building side. I'm more kind of on the BD and sales side, so I'll speak from that. So my day-to-day is kind of, speaking to different clients every day. I think as a kind of sales BD for a software company, my main task is really to give that feedback loop to the product teams. So whatever the product teams are building, we'll communicate that, to the masses, the clients, and basically kind of see where the pain points are, right, and see what the requirements are. And then once we figure out what the requirements are, and if there is something that we cannot serve them right now, then we kind of give that feedback to our product teams to see if they can actually build that as part of their roadmap in the future. So that's kind of like my day-to-day. For example, for a lot of product updates, we also have to speak to our clients about it as well. So just to give it a little example, so let's say for Infura, recently we launched our NFT APIs, which are quite new in the market for us. So, we've been communicating with a lot of key accounts and big companies in the NFT space, kind of seeing how useful they could be to these companies. So we've been speaking to OpenSea, Rarible, LooksRare, these kind of big marketplaces to see how our APIs could be useful to them. And also, kind of on the MetaMask side as well, we recently launched kind of new product features on top of that. For example, I'm not sure if you've heard of Snaps, SNAPS, Snaps. So basically, people could build their own customizations on top of MetaMask. So let's say today, MetaMask cannot connect to non-EVM blockchains, but you can actually build that yourself. So we do have a demo that's available online, which allows people to actually build these connections to non-EVM chains. So we built one for Solana, we built one for Filecoin network as well. So imagine the future when you go into a DApp front end and you're actually able to download different plugins and different features for your version of MetaMask, and you'll be able to interact with that DApp very specifically. So that's kind of on the MetaMask side as well. So yeah, that's kind of my day-to-day, kind of just speaking to different clients and kind of updating them on our product roadmap and our product features and kind of giving that feedback to our product team. So
I forgot to say something, by the way. So like when you are building, there are so many numbers out there that you can't look at everything. So whatever your strategy is, like the growth strategy, those are the numbers you should care about at that time. For example, so right now we're focused on partnerships and events. So like we're looking at engagement of our events. I think we're getting like 10, 15% of our community like involved in events, which is pretty good. But if that started dropping, I'd get worried. And so in the near future, we're going to have a media strategy. So then that's where I would start caring about the numbers about media, like number of mentions in press or like number of podcast interviews and stuff like that. So like you can't look at everything. It's impossible when you're growing. So you just have to connect the numbers that you care about to the growth strategy and just focus on that. Don't look at all the other stuff. Otherwise, your head will just explode.
All right. Alan, you mentioned some tooling and scaling you might want to cover.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's important to measure these things as well. The main tools I'm typically using are open source. So all of the software that I write and really everything I'm doing at Google or for my whole career really, has all been open source. And we measure all these channels obviously. So we measure engagement on social media, or engagement with our blog posts, or engagement with our events. Yes. The other thing I want to highlight here is that, again, Google being at scale, we really start to think more about community engagement and tooling. How scalable is the approach that you're taking, and how can you define that into a process that ideally is largely automated? So we spent a lot of time thinking about this, and then by being able to offload some of the work onto our communities, it distributes the work, and it also tightens a feedback loop where our community leads are in close communication with Google product managers or Google DevRel as an intermediary to the product manager. And so we're hearing quickly from our community what about the product works, it doesn't work, what they like, what they don't like. And then we can also share the features out more quickly as well. So it's a channel for distributing information. And we find this works particularly well. This isn't just for developer communities, this is also for business as well. So another piece that DevRel feeds into is our startups program. So within Google Cloud, we grant some credits to startups. If anybody's interested in this, I'm happy to talk to you more offline. We've had a number of unicorns that specifically initially engaged through DevRel. Specific to this industry that Google's engaged with. Axie Infinity, Chainlink, and Nansen were originally sourced by me within developer relations, and then brought into our sales process and became customers through that. So ultimately, I would say like the best alignment of getting your community and your developer tooling aligned with your company is going to be measured by sales. And I would say that if you can get that all lined up, that can be a huge driver of success.
Awesome. We got like 4 minutes left. So for our last question, just maybe 1 minute each, what advice would you give to our audience here who are founders or future founders? Since Alan, you're the closest to me.
Sure. Yeah. Well, ultimately your company's success is going to be tied to your customers' success, and so having a good relationship with your customers is a good idea, and so having a community with them is also a good idea by extension.
I would say like just keep building. I mean, if you're building in a Web3 space, don't be distracted by the crypto prices that we see every day. Obviously we go in kind of different market cycles, so that just happens up and down all the time. Just keep building, and also I think focus on more of the decentralized products. I think that's kind of where the theme is heading towards. From a company's perspective, we're trying to really build, very decentralized products through MetaMask and also Infura. So hopefully, we can better serve that community in the future. And we're also, kind of putting money where our mouth is. We're also, launched a grants program from MetaMask recently. So, if you're interested in such a grants program, we're happy to speak after the panel as well. So, although, fundraising is more difficult during the, bear market, but I think there's still money out there, kind of chasing after the good projects. So that's my advice.
My advice is don't do it. Unless you really, really, really are obsessed and pissed off with something that you really care about and you're willing to sacrifice several years of your life to do something which probably might not work out. But if you're smart enough and you actually have a good strategy and amazing teammates and you're focused entirely on product market fit, which is actually the most important thing, so you actually build a real community who help build the product that will get traction. You're solving a core problem in crypto or on Web3. Don't bother with all this stuff. You're just kind of chasing money. So that's the wrong idea. You'll fail for sure if you chase money. If you're actually trying to solve a problem, you have a small chance of success. I mean, you guys were probably at C'est La Vie last night, right? I was doing an AMA at 10 o'clock last night online. I never made it to the bar at all. So like my teammates thought it's entirely normal to have an AMA at 10 o'clock p.m. on a Friday night. They thought it's completely normal, but I don't mind. It's totally cool. I love them for it. So yeah, you have to be prepared to sacrifice. You'll be poor for about 2 or 3 years of your life. I'm staying in the worst hotels imaginable at the moment because all the money that we have, not even taking a salary, is just spent on trying to build this product. And all the money is going into development, into like partnerships. We're not spending money on ourselves. So if you're trying to make a quick buck, this is like not that. What wave is over? Like if you kind of missed the boat a few years ago, if we could make really quick money. Now it's like just grinding away, and you'll be moderately successful if you do make it in the end. So like don't bother if you're not prepared for that, but please do it if you are.
Awesome. We got 1 minute. I've certainly learned a lot. I'm not sure if everyone here is open to inquiries on LinkedIn, but you guys can look us up. Quick plug if you want to plug your socials. I'm 2 blockchains, like 2 chains, but 2 blockchains on Twitter. I don't know if you guys want to share your socials.
I'm Alan Day. It's just my name, pretty much everywhere.
All right.
Yeah, you just look me up, Aaron Coase, anywhere, Twitter, LinkedIn, all the same name. So yeah, look me up. So.
All right, so we sunk a bunch of money into the .com. So we are ZKEX.com. So that was like a really early bet, like over a year ago, that we should spend a bunch of money on getting a .com to look more legitimate. I think it was a pretty good move, but we have no money at the moment. We spent all the money on the domain. So yeah, so go to ZKEX.com and we'll find everything about us there.
Great. Round of applause for our speakers today.